Going on, guys? Coach Michael Sechos here, the exercise physiologist that talks about running and lifting way too much. And today we'll be diving in to how you can keep getting stronger while running. We'll be going over how to get strong, basic strength training principles, exercises and movement patterns you can have in your program, ways to progress strength training, plus a whole bunch of other useful information that I think you need to know if you want to continue to get stronger while running. Anyway, let's not waste any more time. Let's dive in. Strength training for runners or runners that want to strength train. Whatever you want to call this, you're a hybrid athlete now. That's all you need to know. Some of the best runners in the world do not do any strength training, and that's fine because they're not trying to be hybrid athletes like we are. If you're here, it's because you want to get good at running and you want to get good at lifting. So I'm going to tell you how to do this together. These two modalities, when used correctly, can benefit and complement each other really nicely. As long as you know what you're doing and you follow my tips, you'll be all right. So if you want to get stronger while running, there are a whole bunch of movements that you probably should have in your program. And these movements are movements that basically cover all the basic movement patterns that the human body does. These movement patterns that I'm talking about are common amongst a lot of strength and conditioning programs, and it makes designing your program a little bit easier as you know what you need to get stronger at. And then all you have to do is insert the variations. That may not make sense yet, so let's dive in. Movement patterns that I'm talking about here are squat pattern, a hinge, vertical row and vertical push, horizontal row and horizontal push, as well as core exercises. And then you may want to throw in some kind of rotation or lunge in there as well. So when it comes to designing your program, the way you may want to do it is by having a list of these movement patterns on a page and then plugging in the exercises that you want to do to these movement patterns and progressing them from there. You can then every few weeks change a couple of these exercises around, continue progressing, and so on and so forth. Alternatively, you do not have to do this, but this is just an easy template to follow, which is why I'm giving it to you. You can then just train particular exercises that you specifically want to get stronger in. If you just want to do powerlifting based movements like squatting, benching, and deadlifting, fuck it, just do those. Or if you want to do other exercises, maybe get a stronger pull up or anything like that, you can just throw that in there as well. It's completely up to you, but the thing that I've given you here is a template to follow that makes it really easy and it covers pretty much all bases. So a lot of the movements I mentioned before are movement patterns that off the top of your head you may think you need to use a barbell for. However, you do not have to. You can do unilateral movements, and I highly recommend you do single arm / single leg movements every now and then. The thing is that running is the type of sport that requires you to use one leg at a time. Although you're using both, you're pushing off one leg at a time while swinging the other forward during your gait pattern. If you have an imbalance that is very noticeable, it can become even more pronounced and noticeable while you're running. This is something you probably want to avoid. However, it does not mean you're going to get injured and doesn't mean it's going to cause a whole bunch of issues, but if the things you're doing in the gym are not complementing your running, you may want to change things around. So doing single arm and single leg movements can be beneficial to you. Alternatively, stick with the barbell stuff if that's not a problem for you and keep on pushing those exercises. Either way, you will get stronger. Just before I dive into the strength training tips, I want to remind all of you that you can go on www.coachmichaelsechos.com to download your free hybrid training program. In addition to that, you can contact me for online coaching anywhere in the world. I'll be able to help you progress both your running and lifting while managing your injuries. All you have to do is inquire and we'll go from there. Strength training tip number one, I like to focus on lower-ish reps. So for a lot of those heavy, hard barbell or unilateral movements that I'm trying to get stronger at, I'll generally keep the rep ranges between 4 to 8 reps. I maybe start at 8 reps and over the course of the program work my way down to 4 reps, increasing load each week, every few weeks or whatever. What this will do is ensure that I'm kind of in that strength training zone. This doesn't mean that I won't get stronger by doing higher reps, but because I am a little bit conscious of the amount of volume I'm doing, and I am conscious that I do want to get stronger at these movements, staying in those lower rep ranges can be a little bit more beneficial for these type of movements that I mentioned before. Strength training tip number two, you can change the frequency as you need. If there's some movements that you want to get better at, then you can do them more than once per week. It's completely up to you. What I would recommend though, if you are doing an exercise more than once per week or a movement pattern more than once per week, Do a standard squat on a Monday, and then the other squat day, maybe you want to do a front squat or safety bar squat or pause squat. So on those other days, you're kind of having variations of the primary movement that you're trying to get stronger at. This will help you both practice their technique, still get stronger at that movement pattern, but using the variation prevents it from getting stale. Strength training tip number 3, you should probably be eating in a calorie surplus. If you want to get stronger, eating in a calorie surplus and gaining a little bit of weight is going to help you get stronger. Is not going to be the best thing for you if you want to get faster, as gaining weight in some instances can make you a little bit slower. From my experience, it does, or it definitely makes running at faster paces harder. However, if your goal is to get stronger, gaining some weight will 100% make that easier. It will help improve your recovery. You'll definitely still be able to run. You may find it's just a little bit harder to maintain those higher speeds or run for those longer durations just because you're carrying a little bit more weight. It's not going to be the case for everyone. It kind of depends on how much weight you've gained and over the period of time you've done it. However, gaining weight is excellent if you want to get stronger. Strength training tip number 4 or 5, I don't fucking know, it doesn't matter. Progressive overload. Basically what this means is you're going to increase the load on the exercises that you have done in the past. So if I start at 50 kilos on bench press, next week I maybe go 52.5. The week after, I may go 55 kilos. If you want to get stronger, I recommend increasing the weight as opposed to the reps. Doing that each week until you hit a plateau. Once you hit a plateau, everything back down and then you go again. I keep going until I can't progress anymore. Once I can't progress anymore, I'll bring everything back down and then I'll bring it back up again. I repeat that cycle over and over, changing exercises now and then every few weeks just to prevent staleness and trying to work on those weak areas that I think I need or I'm trying to get better at with particular lifts. Strength training tip number 6, you need to have some structure to your training week. If your goal is to get stronger in particular lifts, I highly recommend you do your strength training or weights training before you do any kind of running. You do not have to do this, but I highly recommend you do it if your goal is to be as strong as possible when you go into the gym that day. If you want to squat a PR, but you're going for a run in the morning, chances are you're not setting yourself up for success to do that gym session later that day. If you're trying to be as strong as possible, you can get away with doing it. If I did need to do my running and lifting on the same day, I would be definitely doing my lifting before I'm doing any form of running. Having some kind of structure to your training week to ensure that strength training is the priority, that you're not carrying fatigue from your runs or other strength training sessions onto those other strength training sessions will make a big difference. You always want to be going into the gym fresh, feeling strong, ready to lift some heavy shit. If that's not the case, then you may want to shuffle your week around just to optimize the recovery a little bit more and ensure that when you do get in the gym, you're feeling good and you're ready to throw that weight around like never before. Keep in mind, we're trying to do a little bit more work or load each week as we're trying to get stronger. So you do want to feel somewhat fresh and prepared to throw that shit around when you get in there next time. Strength training tip number 7, as your running volume increases, you may find you feel a little bit weaker. And this isn't because it's something you're doing wrong. It's just that running is going to fatigue you and it is going to use some of that energy or recovery capacity that you have and take that away from your ability to lift in the gym. If you want to be as strong as possible, you need to feel fresh. You need to feel good. And to be honest, it's the same when you want to be as fast as possible. If you're trying to hit a PR, you don't want to go into that run with heavy legs, feeling sore or tired. The same principle applies to lifting. If you want to be as strong as possible and lift heavy shit and try to do more than you did the previous week, you need to make sure that going into those gym sessions feeling fresh. In saying that, a way to work around this is 1, do not increase your running volume or reduce it slightly. What I prefer to do is just put my running volume on maintenance. And if I am trying to focus on lifting more, I will just keep my running volume at maintenance to ensure that I'm not losing any fitness. This does not mean you're not going to go backwards in terms of your running progress or anything like that. You're probably not going to be able to get stronger week after week while increasing your running volume week after week. There's going to be a point where shit just hits a ceiling and you're not going to be able to do anymore. So in saying that, there will be points in time where you may want to put your running progression for maintenance so you can keep pushing that stuff in the gym. And then when you're ready to pivot back, you just go back to prioritizing running or pushing them both at the same time. However, if you do really want to get stronger, and I highly recommend you just make that a priority while just putting your running on maintenance and continuing to progress in the gym as much as you can. All right, that's a wrap on another YouTube video, how to get stronger while running. I've listed a whole bunch of tips that you can follow. I've given you movement patterns plus a template you can follow if you want to design your own program. As always, if you're struggling to get stronger and lift at the same time, don't do it yourself. Contact someone like me and let me do the thinking for you. www.coachmichaelsechos.com for online coaching anywhere in the world, or visit my website and download my free hybrid training program, which maps it all out for you. Nonetheless, you know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.